What's up guys, JV2017 here with another daily Destiny tips and tricks video. This series is called Exotic Weapon Guides, where we look in depth at the weapon stats and unique modifiers of each exotic weapon in the game. This time our focus is on the Hard Light Exotic Auto Rifle. Now before we get into anything, please note that this weapon is only obtainable via random drop, finding it in a legendary engram, or if Xur happens to be selling it. I got it by completing a weekly Nightfall strike, so that may be your best chance at finding this weapon. Let's go ahead and hop into the character menu screen here and look at the weapon stats. So right off the bat, we can tell that the Hard Light has a very high rate of fire and a pretty low impact. So the rate of fire on the Hard Light is probably one of its defining factors. This gun shoots incredibly fast, and sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes that can be a bad thing depending on the modifiers that you choose for this weapon. Also, usually when you see high rate of fire, you see low impact, and that's absolutely true with this weapon. You have this incredibly high rate of fire, and in order to kind of counterbalance that out, you need a low impact, or else this weapon would just be a complete monster. It would destroy, in PvP and PvE. So that's what we have going on there. In terms of range and stability, the range is fairly low. It's on the lower side, and stability is also fairly low. They're actually almost exactly the same, as you can tell right here. So what is range? Range is the effective distance at which your weapon deals the most damage. And so, simply put, because of the high fire rate and the low range and even the low stability as well, this weapon is not too great at long range. You don't want to try to be sniping people with the Hard Light. It's just not going to work out. The reload speed is incredibly high on the Hard Light, and the magazine size is also fairly high. So these are some more factors that I believe just, help balance this weapon out, especially the magazine size. This is a nice, healthy size magazine capacity for an automatic weapon, and since the rate of fire is high, it doesn't feel like you ever run out of ammunition too quickly, which is always nice. And of course the reload, I don't think reload is a huge factor either, because the magazine is, again, so high. So it's nice also to have this quick reload, because it could just as easily have a really slow reload, but thankfully we don't have to deal with that. So on to the actual modifiers on this weapon. The first category we have are ballistics, and these basically change a little bit what's going on with your weapon stats. So first off, we have Accurized ballistics, which claims to have more range and impact at the penalty of increased recoil. So automatically this will, you can't tell on the screen right now, but this will decrease your stability compared to the other ballistics. That's just how it goes, at the sacrifice of more, or at the, not the sacrifice, but I guess you could say the benefit of more range. And the impact is kind of middle of the road compared to the other ballistics. So honestly, with Accurized, I don't really like low stability on this weapon. I don't like anything that increases recoil, so I really wouldn't, recommend the Accurized ballistics on this weapon. CBQ is another option here. It greatly reduces recoil, however, it reduces range. So again, I've already pointed out that the range is not that great on this weapon, and you get about a 10, if we were to imagine that these bars were 100, you get about a 10 point penalty to range. However, you get about a 20 to 25 point increase on your stability there. So really, I think this is a personal choice on the CBQ. It's fairly nice. However, I don't really run it because I like more of a middle of the road weapon, but these are just my opinions as well. Finally, Aggressive ballistics. This says you get more predictable recoil, enhanced impact, and a shorter range with more recoil, which is weird. I don't know why you'd have more predictable recoil, however, you get more recoil at the same time. It doesn't really make sense, but the actual statistical changes here are a little bit increased stability, and a little bit more impact. So I usually go with this. I usually go with aggressive ballistics, even though it doesn't really seem to make sense. That's usually the route that I go, because again, it's more middle of the road. It's not huge changes with the stats. However, I just like the feel of the aggressive ballistics. So on to our first primary, not our first primary, but the primary modifier here. And we have both primary and secondary mods here that are 100% unique to these weapons. So first off is glass half full. You will find this on some other weapons, but it's fairly unique. The bottom half of each magazine will cause additional damage. This is a very, very nice mod, and it comes incredibly early in this, the hard lights upgrade tree, which is also very nice. And so you heard it, you deal more damage with the bottom half of the magazine. That's half of all of the bullets that you shoot will deal more damage, which is incredibly effective. I don't think I need to explain how awesome that is. It's a very, very nice primary modifier there. Now we're going to look at stat mods, and these affect the stats of your weapon even more so than the ballistics did. The ballistics were typically small changes. However, these stat mods usually make a nice big change for you. So the first one is quick draw. This weapon can be drawn unbelievably fast. So think about Call of Duty. That's basically what this does, and honestly, I don't see a huge use for this unless you play a lot of PvP. So quick draw is honestly not my favorite modifier in this category. Perfect balance, however, is my favorite modifier. This weapon has extremely low recoil. This gives you about a 25 to 30 point boost on your stability, and also doesn't make you rely on the CBQ ballistics modifier that we talked about earlier, because that also will increase stability. If you combine both of them, you pretty much max out your stability. It's almost all the way up there, which is awesome. But I always use the perfect balance, because honestly, the hard light is pretty tough to use unless you put on CBQ or perfect balance. Finally, Field Scout increases your maximum ammo capacity. So it's already 40 rounds. However, if you use Field Scout, you get 56 rounds, which is crazy. That is a very large auto rifle magazine capacity. So I think, again, it's a feel thing. I would not use Field Scout unless you use CBQ ballistics. That's just, my opinion there. Finally, we're looking at the secondary ability here on the modifiers, and it is called Volatile Light. Rounds fired from this weapon over-penetrate targets and ricochet on hard surfaces. So over-penetrating targets, that actually means that it will go through enemies. So that doesn't mean that it'll go through soft surfaces like wood or something. I don't even know if there's any wood in this game to shoot through. It just means that if you have two enemies lined up, the bullets will go through, and I'm not sure about the damage values, but they will cause some damage to the enemies behind. And they will ricochet on hard surfaces. So this is a little more niche in terms of its usage. I mean, if there's an enemy hiding behind cover, you can shoot the ceiling and hope that it bounces and hits them in the back, but really, this modifier I don't think is super useful. It's nice. It's a nice little thing to have, but honestly, it's not like integral to this weapon's, uniqueness, I guess you could say. So, what is my verdict on this weapon? I think it is a slightly above average exotic weapon. To be honest, when you look at the other exotics, this is a solid exotic. It is good, but it does not really stack up to some of the really incredible exotics like the Icebreaker, for instance. That's an incredible exotic. I love it. The hard light I also love. I have used the hard light more than any other exotic because it's just a solid gun. It really is, and you can kind of build around it with other, nice legendaries. But honestly, I really like the hard light, and it is a slightly above average exotic weapon in my mind. So I hope you guys learned something new from this video, and if you did, remember to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Also, don't forget, you can subscribe to this channel for more daily content on Destiny, and I highly recommend that you do if you haven't already. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you all next time. Peace!